The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners, proud part of the Johners Podcasting Network, of course. Got another fantastic guest with us this week, none other than the owner, the founder, one of the commentators of the LWF, Lancashire Wrestling Federation, Ste Bibby. But Steve, great to have you on the show. How are you doing, sir?
I am feeling very good today, very productive for a change.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I'm glad that we've been able to catch you on a good day. Absolutely, Steve. One thing we have to jump straight into in a couple of weeks' time, the 12th of February, Saturday the 12th, so just a couple of weeks around the corner. You've got your next show, your second show of 2022, the LFW's second show of the year, the Lancashire Riot. So tell us about that, because it sounds like a very, very exciting event. I know that you've announced 4, maybe 5 matches so far, and you did an announcement on your socials just a few days ago. But tell us about the Lancashire Riot and what we could kind of expect to look forward to on the 12th of Feb.
Well, the Lancashire Riot's been an annual thing for us. Obviously, we had a huge gap in between with lockdown and what have you. But it's essentially our rumble for the year, and usually the winner of the Riot will go on to our flagship event, Slamaganza, to compete for the LWF Championship. But this year we've looked at things and we've realised we need an LWF Women's Champion with how strong the division's been. So this year will take the Lancashire Riot match, and it will be 15 women competing for the opportunity to become the first ever women's champion in the LWF. The Riot rules are slightly different to your usual Rumble. It's over the top rope elimination until the final 2, and then the final 2 will then compete for with a pinfall or submission finish. That's the difference with the Riot, and it's a special event because of how different this one is and how the women are taking centre stage, and it's a historic night for us to crown a new champion. And they've got excellent support card as well. You know, we're going to be finding out who's going to be the new #1 contender. We've got an 8-man tag, which is outrageous and is promising to be outrageous. There's just so much going on at this event, and it's probably the one I'm closet looking forward to the most out of all the ones I've done. Absolutely.
I just want to bring the graphic back up of the Rumble to crown the first ever LWF Women's Champion. Now, you mentioned 15 women. I understand that there's an omission to that because Harley Hudson is out injured.
Yes.
I'm guessing that she would have been in the mix, and she's obviously a big favourite of wrestling fans in the North and Northwest. But unfortunately out with an injury at the moment. So get well soon, Harley. And we've actually got Harley on the podcast in March. So there's 14 names. There's obviously some names and faces that really jump off the page here. You can see Lana Austin, Rio, Alexis Falcon, Tonga, and many more. But tell us about some of the amazing talent that's going to be involved in that match. And are we likely to see a surprise replacement for Harley, maybe? I'm not expecting you to let the cat out of the bag, Steve, but I'm guessing it's going to be a good one nonetheless.
Well, there may be a surprise in there. I'm going to be very cryptic on that one. But I think the main thing about Harley is she won. She beat Jenny B at Winter of Discontent, which gave her the opportunity to pick her number in the Riot. And she picked #1 because she wanted to prove that she could beat everyone in the division. And obviously she was injured the following night. So now it's not just a case of who replaces her, it's who takes that #1 spot as well.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
But the talent in that match it's a real mixture. We have a lot of, obviously, the names you mentioned need no introduction.
No.
But I think, you know, we've got some great talent coming through in the LWF. I mean, the likes of Kelly Van Ness, Katie Hawkins, Helena Razor, they are really making waves on, and certainly since July last year, they've been a big part of every show we've done. And this is sort of the moment to really shine.
100%. It's definitely going to be the highlight of the show on the 12th of February. And this match as well. I think you alluded to it earlier. You announced it on your socials not long ago, the #1 contenders match. Now, I understand that there's not going to be a LWF Championship match on the show, or certainly nothing that has been announced so far. But you've got 3 fantastic talents there to see who will go on to face your champion, Raynaldo. So tell us about that match, because that looks like a fantastic match between 3 amazing wrestlers from the North.
Well, it's been a combination of situations, that match. We obviously, Raynaldo won the championship from against Nick Cutter in December. Nick Cutter obviously has a rematch clause, but the amount of I've decided that the amount of interference that he orchestrated during that street fight in December disrupted the match so much that I'm not happy with him directly receiving that rematch. I want him to work for it, and he's caused me enough problems. So, you know, there's nothing I can do. It's in his hands, this, and he's now going to have to go into a #1 contendership match instead of going for the championship. So he's there. You have Aiton Steen, who, and sort of linked to what I've just said, he won a 6-person frenzy in October, which he's now empowered for, that earned him a right at the championship. And Nick Cutter immediately came out and snatched that opportunity away from him. They held him to ransom, really, with his fellow Shining Wizard member, and attacked them and forced him into this match straight after he just won the right. So he lost his opportunity, and I didn't feel that was right. So he goes into the mix. And Sonna Durson was due for a #1 contendership match in November, but COVID struck. So
Right.
I wasn't going to deprive the fans of this opportunity that he deserves. And he and Nick Cutter were going to have a great match, and that was put on hold. So this kind of rights that wrong a little. So there's 3 separate situations there which have caused this championship contenders match.
Exactly, and it all boils down to this perfect scenario, this perfect storm of a match that's going to crown the new #1 contenders for the LWF Championship. Absolutely fantastic. And you alluded to a couple of other matches here. I'm going to bring up the graphics. You mentioned is that an 8-man tag?
It certainly is.
Looks amazing, and some talent there that I certainly recognise. But talk us through some of the names and some of the teams involved there.
Well, I'll actually give you a little bit of a revelation here.
A bit of an exclusive. Go for it. Yeah,
you've got an exclusive. Basically, we had the Merseyside Mercenary Squad debuted in December, and then they were scheduled to come back for Winter of Discontent for the tag team tournament. But Scott Oberman wasn't available, so Cameron Solas stepped in, and it was he wouldn't have thought he was a stand-in. He just molded right into.
He's amazing, isn't he? He's absolutely
fantastic. But the difference is this time around is Dan Evans is going to be abroad, so it's going to be Scott Oberman and Cameron Solas as representing the Mercenary Squad in that match. This is brand new news, so you've got it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
They'll be teaming with the Wrecking Crew, who are the new LWF Tag Team Champions. They've been causing chaos, destruction, havoc throughout the company right from the start of the restart after lockdown. They've made my life very difficult, and a lot of other members of the roster's life very difficult. And they've now got belts to prove it, so that they're worth it. So they are going to be teaming with the Mercenary Squad, who we found out in the event prior, they had paid off to take Synergy out of the tournament. They intentionally got Synergy counted out, and it took them out of the tournament, gave them a bye through to the final. So that's why they're teaming. And on the other side, you have a very angry Synergy who want some revenge, and they are going to call upon the models who they would have fought at Winter of Discontent if it wasn't for COVID. So there's, again, it all makes sense.
Absolutely fantastic storytelling, fantastic booking there, I've got to say, Steve. Absolutely fantastic. And then one more match. You got Latchland Sharp versus John Mckinney. So that's a 2 out of 3 falls final curtain match. Explain how that match, the rules to that match, and Steve. It sounds very interesting.
Well, the final curtain thing's just a little glossy way of saying this is the end to the rivalry. They have never liked each other from the moment they set foot near each other. They had a match at Honour and Glory, and John Mckinney was victorious, and he went on to the 6-person frenzy as a result. But then we had Anderson Daniels was injured, so there was a space in the 6-person frenzy, which Lachlan Sharp then went and took, which John J. Mac wasn't happy about because he just earned his right against him and he just walked straight into it. So they then fought again in November, and Lachlan was victorious then, so they tied at 1 each. And Lachlan asked John Mckinney if they could have the one match to make sure that we knew who was the best out of the two, and John declined and said he wouldn't be turning up in December because he couldn't be bothered. So this is management saying, no, you will be bothered and you are having this match. So this is going to bring down hopefully the rivalry once and for all, because they've had some very spectacular encounters, and this could be the best one of the lot, I think.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, Steve, we're a couple of weeks out from Lancashire Riot. We've spoke about the 4 matches that have already been announced. Are we to expect any more matches to be announced between now and then? And any more exclusives for the Wrestling with John's podcast, maybe?
Well, we've got a couple of small announcements. There will be certain wrestlers that we've had at many shows prior will be at this one. We're going to leave that as a little bit of a on the night thing.
Oh,
you turn up to find out what's going to happen with those guys. So at the moment, those are your main matches. Everything else is going to be exclusive to the moment, I think.
All the more reason to be there on the night to witness this historic LWF event. And just for my listeners and viewers that are watching this and listening to this, how can they get tickets if they want to get involved, if they live in the area, if they've not sampled the LWF to date? How can they get involved? How can they get tickets for the show?
The tickets are mainly on the event page on Facebook, but there's always a link on every platform that we put the graphics out on, so it'll direct you to Ticket Tailor, where you can buy the tickets for that event. So we'll always have links there for you to follow. If for some reason it doesn't work or you can't find that, I'm very, very quick to reply to every message we're sent. So just basically, if you're having trouble with the links, just get in touch with the LWF and we will reserve you a place. Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll make sure that that link that he's referring to the ticket site will be added into the description of this podcast, whether you're watching the video or whether you're listening to the audio version. Just click in the link that's added to the description of this podcast. It will take you straight through to the ticket site. Steve, you're going to talk about 2021, because although British wrestling only came back from, say, July onwards, the LWF had its busiest year, didn't it? I think you had a show every single month up until December, culminating in what would be considered probably your biggest show in your 3 or 4 year history. But just sum up 2021 for us, because it was a fantastic year. Obviously, we had the last 18 months out of action, thanks to the pandemic, or no thanks to the pandemic, I have to say. And then you guys come back with a bang. That must have been a thrill and a real sense of achievement, a sense of pride to have done what you did in 2021.
I think it's strange to say this, but the lockdown seemed to wake people up to wanting to be part of things again and being out there and seeing what they enjoy. And we just really jumped on board that. And I think not just ourselves, but that can be proud of it. There's so many other promotions out there that have thrived and have really grabbed hold of it since then. And I think the best thing is as well, we're not the only ones putting in consistent monthly entertainment. Everybody seems to be doing it, and there's always something out there for someone to watch. And I think the more you all do this, the more you're actually bringing in fans for each other as well. But I'm very proud personally that we were able to get the momentum we got and hit the ground running. We spent wisely. We invested in certainly like the graphics and the posters that we put out. We tried to make them as interesting and unique as possible. And the talent really stepped up. You know, they came back to training and they were sharp, they were ready, they were motivated. And you saw that in the first show when we had Slamaganza in July, when we restarted. There was a lot of debutants on that show that went out and absolutely smashed it. And they've continued to do that since. We've never really lost momentum at all. We've continued with the same philosophies and the same principles. And it's not stopping, and I can't see the engine running out anytime soon. And that's just, again, that's not just us, that goes for everyone else as well.
Well, absolutely. And you know, a lot of people were concerned and worried about what the British wrestling scene would look like when it finally started up again, and it did last summer. And as you said, there was a lot of new promotions coming up. There was an opportunity for a lot of new wrestlers to make a mark and make a name for themselves, who, you know, may have only been training when wrestling was around 18 months prior. But the LWF did hit the ground running. 6 fantastic shows, culminating at the end of the year with your biggest show, possibly your biggest crowd as well, at Chorley Town Hall, a historic venue, a fantastic venue, a grand venue. And that must have been a thrill, considering what 2020 was like and the first 6 months of 2021 was like, to have those 6 shows, but December culminating in that fantastic show at the Chorley Town Hall. Tell us a bit about that final show of the year, because I understand it wasn't all plain sailing at the very beginning, was it?
I've never, I can't remember, because I'm always, anybody that knows me knows I'm very I'm very nervy, and I worry a lot. But I always say I worry, and I'm like that because if I'm never complacent.
Yeah,
you know, and I always make sure that everything's done to the last in terms of detail. So, but that show I had massive nerves for, because of the size of the venue and because of the crowd size. I really wanted that to work, and obviously, no, it wasn't plain sailing. We had so many card changes, and these were card changes that happened, like, I think 2 of them happened about 2 hours before the event. You know, so we were shuffling and reshuffling, and they said the best till a minute before the show when the power went out.
Yeah,
as well.
Unbelievable. You couldn't make it up, could you?
I know, and I'm still backstage going, well, this is a year's work, you know, and now it's come down to this. And I think Mike Angus at the time, he was saying, well, I can go out and I can shout. I won't use the microphone. I'll shout everything, and we don't have to.
And believe me, Mike would still turn it into a success, having to shout even without a microphone. He would do it and then turn it into a success.
But I didn't want to do it. I was like, no, if they're going to fix this, they're fixing it. And I was stubborn as hell, and I'm so glad I was, because 20 minutes passed, and then they finally got it going again. But it sort of upset me a little bit, because as you know, when you've been sat there a while, and then towards the end of the show, some people have to go early, but they wouldn't have done before, and people get tired. So that was the only thing I would have changed about the night, because the actual event itself was fantastic, and the ending was what people had wanted to see all year. So yeah, it was a real triumph, that. And I when I first started doing this, I said I want to sell out the town hall, and I came very close to doing it.
Yeah, and I have to ask a bit of a cheeky question. What was the attendance for that show in December?
I believe it was just over 200.
That's really good. That's absolutely fantastic. I bet you were chuffed to bits with that. And like you say, you know, these things are sent to try us, aren't they? With card changes, and who would have thought that a minute before the show you would have had a power cut? I mean, that's just some, you know.
Doesn't surprise me anymore. It doesn't surprise me at all.
After that, nothing will surprise you, Steve. But to you say, the show was a triumph, and the fans did really enjoy the hell out of it. And by the end of it, you had a new champion, Raynaldo, the second ever LWF heavyweight champion, and a popular champion as well. But to tell us a bit about Raynaldo, because he's performed for the LWF pretty much from the early days, I'd say,
Right
pretty
from the
much from the
start,
very
yeah.
beginning. Yeah, from the very beginning. And just a quick look, that's the championship bout up close there. What a beautiful bout, an absolutely beautiful bout, I've got to say. But to Raynaldo, what a kind of a figurehead. He's been in the business for a fair length of time. He's well known. He's wrestled up and down the country. He's been a champion before for other promotions, but to finally have that man as your figurehead, your leader, your champion in the LWF, that's pretty special, isn't it?
It was a very emotional night, that, because he had such a rough time trying to get that opportunity, and he'd been screwed out of it so many times, and his work rate is second to none.
Yeah,
he's a perfectionist, a thorough professional, and a brilliant example. And it was just nice to see the way we did it. Was I put Nick Cutter into a street fight situation, and he was obviously very happy with that, because that's sort of his style, is to be underhanded and dirty and use dirty tactics. But I did it because I knew that he wouldn't expect it from Raynaldo, and Ray brought everything, and he even came to the ring with the Cactus Jack T-shirt, but with his own face in there. He'd obviously gone to great lengths to prepare for this, even down to the attire, and it was a bit uncomfortable to watch at times. It was very physical and brutal, but it was strange how Ray's such a wholesome character, and yet it took a street fight like that to finally get him the championship he deserves. And he celebrated with his family. He had his son in the ring with him as well. And the thing with the LWF is, when he first started back in April 2018, his son had never seen him wrestle before. Wow. So he finally got that opportunity to see him back then. And now 4 years later, he's seen him win the belt as well. So it's a really nice story, and really worth checking out. If ever you get a chance to sort of go back to the events we've done and watch it through. It's a hell of a journey and a hell of a story for him.
Oh, 100%. But a great crowning moment there for Raynaldo. And like I say, it allowed you to hit 2022, hit the ground running, really. And you had a fantastic show in January. You got another amazing show to look forward to in a couple of weeks' time, the Lancashire Riot, of course, as we alluded to earlier on. But I've got to throw a quick plug and a quick shout out to our sponsor, Steve, 1310 Apparel, who are the fantastic sponsors of the Wrestling with Johners podcast and the Johners Podcasting Network. And if you go over to their store at WrestleMerch Central, their global store, of course, you will see their full range of fantastic attire and merchandise that you can purchase there, including their hardcore range, their lucha range, and the more traditional 1310 and Four Corners line. They do sponsor some very well-known wrestlers and athletes throughout the UK, including Heidi Katrina, Northwest Strongs, Chris Ridgway, of course, and of course on their Big Cartel store and their WrestleMerch Central store. You got the exclusive Heidi Katrina t-shirt there, which is out now. And if you go over to their 1310.merch.global store over at WrestleMerch Central, you will be able to take advantage of our offer with 1310 Apparel. At checkout, type in the discount code 1310WMC, and you'll be able to get 10% off of any of your merchandise through 1310 that you so desire. Just go to 1310.merch.global, put in the discount code 1310WMC, and get yourself 10% off all of that 1310 swag. But Steve, back over to us. And I've got to take it all the way back now. And I want to talk about the origins of the LWF. What was the inspiration? What was the genesis, the inception for the LWF? How did it come about? What was the spark that started what we know today as the LWF?
It was by accident.
Oh, very interesting. Tell me more.
I wanted to be a commentator. That was my goal. And I wanted a way of putting myself out there so I could be seen. But at the same time, I thought, well, I'm not going to, maybe I should build something of my own and go from there. So I plant a new tree. And I realized that between Manchester and Preston, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So I went literally on a little personal scouting mission. Once I'd found a couple of guys to do some to run some sessions, I'd found some seasoned veterans to help me. And I found about 13 people who were willing to give it a go, and it grew as an academy from there. And then because we were bringing talent through who were obviously learning pretty quickly, we decided to try and go for a show and go for an event and see if it was worth, see if there was something there to build on. And it's been like that. It was literally something I just experimented with because I wanted to be a wrestling commentator, and it's just escalated. And I've never been a businessman, never claimed to be one. I'm a pretty bloody dreadful businessman, if I'm honest. But I've learned over time to, what I need to do and what needs to be in place for something like this. And yeah, and I'm here now. It is really a strange situation because it just literally was me wanting to do commentary, and then I've ended up promoting.
That's so, and to think that it started off as the academy essentially, and then, like I say, you grew the talent pool and you had to put on shows for them. So it kind of that was the seed that kind of started the LWF off. But I'm gonna show you a picture here. Look at where's it gonna come up? Look at that man there, at home, with his fans. And that must be when you're in your element, when you're out there with the fans on show day. Tell us what that feeling's like, Steve, when you're out there on show day and you've got the adulation there, but it's going to be a fantastic card. You've worked hard to get this show ready, and show day is upon you. Well, what's that feeling like?
It's funny you asked me this question. Actually, that picture's from Slamaganza, the first one we ever did, and one of my dreams was to do my own WrestleMania. So that was me walking out for my a bucket list goal. But it's as soon as I walk through the curtain and it's ready for commentary and things like that, I sort of relax a little bit, and my eyes are always everywhere during the show because I've got to make sure everything runs smoothly. But it's. People say to me I don't relax, and I don't relax really. I'm always sort of here, there, and everywhere. But there is a moment when I sort of sit down at that commentary desk and I hear the fans and everything, and then I'm like, yeah, this is why I do this. I am in my element when I walk out at the beginning, completely. That's when the music's actually worked and the sound and the power hasn't gone out.
Exactly.
But it's like I try not to worry because I don't want it to bleed onto everybody else. I sort of I make it look like I'm being productive when really inside I'm screaming a bit. But yeah, I love being out there, and I love working with Mikey Fitzgerald as my colour commentator because he sort of puts me at ease, and it is the best place to be when you're ringside and you're calling what's going on in there, and that you've sort of built it and created it as well. It's a brilliant feeling.
Absolutely. Would that be Mikey there?
No, that's Lawrence. I worked in Yorkshire with him in my early days. Mikey is there he is.
There we go on the right.
Yeah, he is a genius, that man. He's fabulous when it comes to the booking side of things. He's very creative. He's also, he has to do the cover work because I'm sort of running the show. If something needs addressing, I've got to leave the commentary for a moment. He'll carry the show while I'm gone for those moments. Absolutely. And he's very good at what he does.
Yeah, and for your first few shows, obviously there's going to be teething issues and things that you don't know are going to happen until they happen. But what are some of the biggest kind of learning curves or learning experience that you found being a new promoter, say 2 or 3 shows in, then, Steve?
I think it's always good to set yourself small goals on the day. So I want the ring up by a certain time. I want certain people to set the merch up. I want certain people to put the staging up. Because in my early days, we'd arrive at the venue and there'd just be things everywhere. And I'd just be like, well, you can do that and you might as well do that. And it just becomes, I put more pressure on myself. I've learned to sort of categorize things and assign certain people to certain roles. That kind of things come over time. Little things like when you're unloading the vans and things like that, when I bring something in the building, it goes where it's going to go on the night so that I'm not searching for anything. And all this kind of thing does is give me an extra hour at the start where people can practice or we can have a team talk. little things like that I didn't do in the first 3 shows, and now are absolutely crucial to me. There's also the comfort of the talent as well. I make sure that we have plenty of water, energy drinks backstage. There's a lot of space. Just trying to accommodate them as best we can so that people want to come back. You know, I've learned over time that they're not. It doesn't take a lot to create that kind of environment. It's just a little bit of effort. So yeah, and what I try to do with every show is I try and add a little bit of something new each time. Even little things like we've done 2 Christmas shows before the last one we did, but this year I wrapped lights around the ring posts. Just I try and add something different each year, and then you know, by the end of it, all these things are in place, and it always looks great.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a double-barreled question here, but how have you seen the LWF grow over the last 4 years? You know, has there been any kind of main growths that you've noticed the company's made, and what makes it stand out compared to other wrestling promotions in the North and the Northwest? What's its USP?
Answer to the first question would be, hang on, the first question was how have I seen it grow?
Growth. How has it evolved?
I think it's grown by, I try to put double the effort in that I did the previous year in terms of promotion in and trying to get the word out there. So if I post our events to 5 groups last year, I post them to 10 this year.
Yeah.
And I keep finding different places to put it out there. And I also try and engage with the fans physically, like when they're in the venue at the night. I try and talk to them each and say, look, if you want to bring some friends next time, or if you want to do a group, I'll do you a discount. I try and talk to them more rather than just throw it all out online.
Yeah, and that's really important, you know, being engaging, being the face of the company, and you know, just being that face of the company, and you know, having the support of your fans and getting to know them individually, I think is really important to be as a local promoter.
Well, I also learned to this helps a little as well. I've started putting tickets for the next show on the merch table, very limited amount, but at a discounted price, so that they can buy them on the night for cheaper than they would, and then they're already guaranteed to be there. They're on the list. So we've started building the crowd for the next show on this one, you know, and I even did something ridiculous at the last show, and it got laughed at, but I put 3 strips of raffle tickets for the next raffle on the raffle.
Well, there you go.
I mean, you know, somebody's going to keep hold of those and come back with them. Little things like that help us grow. It's really stupid. It sounds stupid, but it does work.
Yeah.
And the other one, what was the other question?
What makes it stand out? What makes it unique compared to, you know, I wouldn't necessarily call it competition, because I know that you guys do work a lot in collaboration in the North and the Northwest, but have you got like a unique selling point? What makes the LWF different to a lot of other promotions in your area?
The story. I think the one thing when I first started doing this, I wanted to have a continuous story and a succession of continuous stories for each wrestler woven through the year. And I sort of, it's one of the things that's a pet peeve of mine with mainstream wrestling right now, is I feel like it's become too segmented and it doesn't flow like it used to. I always refer to like Monday Night Raws, like they were an episode where things would happen during the night that would affect something later on in the night and things like that. But now it's sort of like, if you're interested in a certain thing on Raw, you just watch one section of it and then you ignore the rest. Whereas before it was like, well, that's happened, that might happen later, that might happen in the main. And so what we try and do is we try and weave a story that never stops, and there's no break in it. So everybody has a strong background to every match they have. And I do try and put a lot of history promos out, how we got here and all that sort of thing. I try and do a lot of cut scenes. I just think we are very heavily storyline based, and I know that's not always possible for a lot of other promotion stuff, because they only do so many shows a year and they don't have a lot of time to invest in it. I'm trying to make sure that we put as much story into our show as possible. It's very soap opera-ish, but it's done in the right way.
Yeah, and it's what sells tickets. You know, it's
Yeah.
what sells tickets is people not just get invested in the characters and the matches, but they want to know how storylines are going to end or how storylines are going to build and what you're going to do with that feud next. And yeah, as a wrestling promoter, that's very important. And you know, you're clearly doing it there with the LWF. But one thing that was very evident to me in my research was use a lot of local talent, but also a lot of new talent. You mentioned the academy earlier on, that was pretty much was the start of the LWF from the very beginning. But it's very not necessarily unique, but interesting to see how you use a new, fresh, and young talent that might not be used elsewhere exclusively to your brand, in conjunction with the, you know, more well-known talent, the more experienced talent that might come in. But was that a conscious effort on your part to use LWF trainees or people that you've established over the years?
I always wanted a mixture of old and new, of experienced and inexperienced, because the only way that the people coming through the academy are going to learn is by working with those that have been there and done that. And I didn't want to just put academy talent versus academy talent and then have a big marquee match involving two big stars. I wanted to mix them, because you get the benefit of very likely it's going to be a good match, and also they're going to learn a lot and they'll be better for it. And also, if somebody, I always think it like you've got a big star that works with one of our younger talent and they enjoy working with them and it goes well, their name then ends up somewhere else, and they're put in the mind of another promotion or somewhere else around the country, and then our name consequently is attached to that. So I think it's really important to mix the two. We've always been very proud of the talent we brought through, the likes of Nick Cutter, who's doing great things at the moment, Davey Getsky. We want them to be noticed, and because if they're noticed, so are we. And it's one of the rewards of doing this job, is that you've made a star, or you've helped make a star out of somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've spoke at length about the academy, and there we go there. And tell us a bit about that, because we could have people watching or listening to your interview, Steve, that might be interested in getting involved, learning as a trainee within the business, want to kind of get in the ring and become a wrestler. Tell us how they can get involved and what opportunities, what classes there might be for them if they live in the area and they do want to become a pro wrestler through the LWF.
Yeah, of course. We work at Coppell Enterprise Centre, which is just outside of Chorley. And if you came to a session with us, we always guarantee your first session is free, just so you can get to grips with it. If you enjoy it, then obviously you come back, and then it's just £10 a session from there on. And we have a variety of different guys that come and help us, that come and train. Because I'm very big on I don't know how widely this is agreed with, but I'm a big believer that you can never just listen to just one opinion or one person. I think so many different perspectives are important. You can learn something off somebody and then something else from somebody else. And that's kind of how we work. We've had a lot of very helpful trainers come down, and they're scheduled for the rest of the year. We had Lana Austin comes and trains our guys, and Damon Lee did a great session with us not long back. And we have like midweek sessions for basics and things, which Troy Ryan does a wonderful job in, as does Nate Reese. And all we do is we try and mix it up. We have Matt Fox coming in on various Thursday nights in February as well. And you will always get, I always try and make sure that it's a 2-hour session, but you get the full 2 hours out of it. It's 2.5 on a Saturday, because we allow half an hour for any sort of extra work that is required or you can request. And it's a nice little, we finally found somewhere that's good enough for us to train in. It's been a hell of a journey. And it was strange really that the academy building that we have now is what I'd been waiting for 3 years. A nice spacious building with a big high ceiling and a nice setup. And it actually it sort of went in tandem with us launching the shows again. So we really did launch on both platforms, through the school and through the events. But it's a friendly group. You'll always be welcomed, because anybody that comes to our academy that's new is helping it continue and helping it grow. And without anybody new walking through the doors, we probably wouldn't last. So it's a very welcoming environment. Everyone's there to help each other. And we found that people that come to train with us do tend to want to come back.
Yeah. And there, if I'm not mistaken, there's an LWF Facebook page as well. So
Yes.
Anybody that wants to inquire about sessions or how it works can, I'm guessing, go through that Facebook group and message yourself or whoever might be in charge of that page to find out more.
Yeah, that's right. I'm very responsive. I do try, and I've got a lot to keep up with. I've got a lot of platforms to keep up with. I've got the training page, the main page, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So there's three platforms for both the school and for the actual LWF itself. But every message that comes through to me, I'm pretty immediate in responding to. Maybe not late at night when I'm throwing boxes around at UPS, but when I come home, I'll be straight on to replying. So I'm always open and always available if anybody wants to ask any questions about that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned very briefly this lady, Lana Austin,
yeah,
and Raynaldo. How important is it when you've got these amazing pros that swing by the LWF and perform and help out at the academy and are there at the shows, especially for some of the younger talents, some of the more eager trainees that really want to soak up the knowledge, and having these amazing pros around them to impart their knowledge and impart their experience, that's invaluable, isn't it?
It also makes me very proud that I built something that they are happy to be a part of and want to be a part of, because I've got so much respect for that kind of talent and you know, the likes of what Lana has done in Japan and things like that, and like even like Raynaldo with all his years and years of experience, it is valuable to the locker room and to our younger guys. I'm so blessed to have these options.
Yeah.
I'm obviously doing something right, and that's how I look at it. And even if faced with criticism, it just sort of you take a step back and you'd say, these people wouldn't want to be involved with what I'm doing if it was in any way not the right way to go about things. I'm obviously doing something that's enticing these people to come and work with me.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that, and it is as valuable as you can imagine to have them around. Absolutely. Same with the likes of Tonga is fantastic at shows as well. She's brilliant backstage. She always wants to help, and I just want more of that in the future. And you can never learn too much.
Yeah. And it sounds like a very positive atmosphere backstage on show day, with the mixture of the experienced pros and the LWF regulars and the trainees possibly. But I'm guessing that positive environment backstage, that then kind of feeds out to the atmosphere and kind of the matches and the ambience of what's happening out around the ring.
Yeah, the backstage is critical for me. You've got to have a good atmosphere back there, and I make sure of this mainly because I'm ringside all night, so I'm not back there being able to sort of see what's going on. So I've got to make sure I can trust it back there, and there's enough experience back there to keep it in line and keep it together. But it is a good atmosphere right from the very start, and I try and make it so. It's very easy to let to bring in a whole bunch of random people together and expect it all to run perfectly smoothly. We do look at who we bring in very carefully just to make sure that it works. Every person we bring into our company is there for a storyline reason. I don't just bring anybody in. We always make sure that when they do arrive as well, that we have a welcoming feel. And backstage is always good at the LWF, and we always the venues we have as well have got good backstage areas. We've worked at the Army Reserve Centre in Chorley before, and it's like that's a luxury backstage area. It's far too good for us. I think we've got multiple different meeting rooms and corridors and passageways and staircases to film promos, and it's fantastic. And The book show one's not as easy, but we've extended the gorilla position now so that we can fit more people back there, and it's always a happy, laughing environment. I love it. That's actually probably up there with my favorite things about show day, is right before the show starts, just seeing everybody back there and seeing the good spirit that there is.
Absolutely, and that spirit and that family atmosphere backstage, that good positive atmosphere, like I say, it feeds off onto the performances and the fans as well, as far as I'm concerned. But I mentioned this to you off air before we started recording, but the LWF logo, I absolutely love it. It really stands out. It's not your typical wrestling company's logo. It really jumps out. Obviously, you've got the rose there, which is synonymous with Lancashire. But tell us about that logo. Was it your kind of idea to come up with that type of logo? It's very colourful, really jumps off the page, and it's so different and unique to what you'd normally find for a wrestling promotion.
Yeah, I built that logo. That's the condensed logo that you've got there. That's the one with the small writing, so it would fit in the profile picture on the page. Yeah, I wanted a colourful logo. I really wanted the red rose. That was the most important thing. I really wanted the red sort of rose of Lancashire in the middle. I know it's probably a Tudor one, actually. I'm not absolutely sure, but small print. It stands out. I wanted to stand out, and I wanted a bit of colour in there. There's a bit of skepticism over the green, the bright green, but I think when you look at it from a distance, and certainly if you look at it on the canvas in the ring, it really sort of stands out and
it really
shoots
does.
up at you. So I'm glad you like it. Not many people have said that to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that kind of really captured me. When I started kind of looking into the LWF, the logo just really jumps out. Now, another kind of a transparency moment from myself, but I wasn't really exposed to much LWF up until about October last year, and I was invited to be a part of TNT Extreme Wrestling's show. I think it was the first time they'd done this, but it was Extreme Fields. And I can't remember the name of the venue, but it was a mixture of live music and live pro wrestling. I think there was companies from all over the north and northwest that were invited to be a part of this collaboration alongside TNT Extreme on the day. There must have been about 15 or 16 wrestling matches from 11 a.m. through till 8 p.m. in the evening. It's a full day. It was almost like a mini festival of wrestling and music. But the LWF were invited to be a part of that fantastic event. And I've actually got a graphic here. I believe this was the match that took place. Davey Getsky and Alton Steen. Tell us about that. Obviously, you must have been chuffed to bits to have been invited by Jay and the gang over at TNT in Liverpool, and then to be asked to put on an exhibition match with those two fantastic individuals. But a hell of a day, and a great way to kind of make your mark on maybe a broader audience, a wider set of eyes.
It was a fantastic day, and I was so pleased when I was asked to put forward a match to represent us, because it's that recognition, and people knowing who we are, and not just knowing who we are, but knowing who we are enough to want us to be a part of it as well. I was very proud of that. And the match that I chose, to me, was at the time was a no-brainer, because Alton Steen's Shining Wizard and Davey Getsky's Wrecking Crew were having a battle at the time, and I thought, well, that'll just enhance it even further. So I was even using storyline in that, but they went out and put on a great little showing. It was just really a teaser, and we know they can do even more than that, and we'd love to go back and do something else again. But the whole day itself was just a breath of fresh air to me, to actually go and be a fan, not have to worry about anything other than just enjoying it. And being there with a bunch of our guys as well. We'd invited a couple of fans as well to come down with us, and it was one of the best days I had last year, because there was no pressure, and it was great seeing so many wrestling fans in that small. It was a huge venue, but you felt so compact and together. Yeah. It was great, and I would I would happily be involved with something like that again. And there should be more wrestling festival sort of atmosphere. I think that should happen in summer, you know, outdoor festivals. I know we're at the mercy of the elements in this country, but it would be a great idea to see more wrestling festivals popping up with music included, because it's a great combination, and beer as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to correct myself. It was the Electric Warehouse, I think, in the centre of Liverpool. Fantastic venue. And like I say, they had the music and the bands upstairs. They had the wrestling on the floor below, and a tremendous array of talent and promotions that were involved that day. It really, really was good. And I definitely want to be a part of that again. If ever we get invited, I'm sure Jay has something similar planned for 2022. And I'm sure the LWF are going to be there to represent as well. But we touched on it earlier, Steve, and what kind of kick-started the seeds that started the LWF was you wanting to be a commentator. And one of your many hats with the LWF is that you are behind the desk, you are behind the microphone, you are one of the commentators. So you are kind of living out that dream as well, I suppose. But tell us about your announcing gig and being an announcer, and is it hard to stay impartial when you're the owner as well as the commentator on show day?
I am living out a dream, you're right, because I'd only done I'd done a lot of work in Yorkshire when I first started, just trying to get a feel for it, because I'm a play-by-play commentator. I find colour very difficult for some reason. I'm sort of used to calling everything I'm seeing and then sort of leaving the gaps for everyone else. It was very, very difficult to try and convert to colour when I went up to Odyssey Pro to do a show there. But I love being behind that desk, and I love calling what I see. I'm very much inspired by Jim Ross. I got some advice from him at a convention about 7 years ago. And he said, he told me, I think give me 3 pointers to sort of work from. It was like, tell me why I should care about what I'm watching. Don't talk about yourself, and don't make everything out to be the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I've gone off that, and I try and tell the story of what's going on in the ring. I try and make sure that I call as many moves as I possibly can, so I'm never ignoring what they're doing out there. And it's hard to do it while you're running the show. In terms, I don't think impartial. I'm okay with sort of getting into the character, and that's never an issue. It's more like, oh, I've forgotten that we're taking photographs at the interval, and I've not asked the wrestlers if they'll do it. That kind of thing, and it's more that sort of thing. But the actual commentary side, I absolutely love doing it, and it's the one thing that causes me no stress at all. I can go out and do it, and I have so much fun. And I've learned a lot over the years. I mean, when I first started, I had a notebook next to me of adjectives and things, so I never repeated myself, and sayings and phrases. And now I just go out and do it organically. I mean, I'd like to sort of put myself out there a bit more. If I wasn't so busy with LWF all the time, then it would be nice to work somewhere else. Because I often get told that I should try and put myself out there and do more work. But I have got so much work with this that I'm almost afraid to lose the weekend time.
Exactly.
So, but I do love commentating, and actually, it's one of the things I'm a bit self-critical, but it's one of the things I actually think I'm half decent at. So it obviously gives me a good feeling.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to take the big brave steps into some sort of commentary role this year. So I'm going to be taking on board Jim Ross's advice and your advice as well, Steve. So thank you very much.
Maybe I'll work with you sometime. I would love to.
That would be absolutely amazing. But as we start to wind down, then, Steve, I've got one kind of main key question for you, and this 2022 marks the 4th anniversary of the LWF. Must make you tremendously proud with everything you've achieved. But are there any kind of standout moments that you think, will live with you to the day you die, as far as some of the proudest moments and some of the proudest things that you've achieved with the LWF?
In no particular order. I think moments-wise, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a free match on Powered 4 TV, but Mosh Pit Mayhem from our Honor and Glory show was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And that sort of made me realize just what sort of what sort of levels the talent would go towards just to make our show successful. Showed me the sacrifices they put in. So I was very, very proud of that. And I was beaming after that show. So that's definitely a standout moment and definitely worth watching. It is totally free on Powered 4 TV, that one, because I didn't want to deprive anybody of seeing that. I think the invention of Slamaganza, and then us returning with it after lockdown, that was a big thing for me to come out at a show that it was like a dream to run. I know that this Lancashire Riot this year is going to be one of those moments, 100%. And I think the first sellout we had, the first, I think it was a Lancashire Riot 2020, which was the last show before the lockdown started. That was the first time I'd sold out the building, and it ended up being standing room only, and I was really proud of that because I was able to bring that many people in when we hadn't been going really that long. You know, so I think it's really seeing people pouring through the doors and hearing the noise they make. That's the biggest thing for me, because I've actually created something that people are invested in.
100%. Yeah, and from everything I've seen and learned over the last few weeks, the LWF is definitely an exciting promotion. Still relatively new, still relatively young, a lot of growing room there, and I'm sure it's going to kind of expand and get bigger and more exciting as the months and the years go on. But let's quickly cast our minds back to the Lancashire Riot. 2 weeks' time, the 12th of February, you've obviously got the #1 contenders match there, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. So many intertwined storylines involved in those three individuals. What's going to be the highlight of the show, the 15-woman Rumble match to crown the first ever LWF Women's Champion, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. And who is going to take that #1 spot? Because, of course, Harley Hudson is out injured at the moment. You mentioned the 8-man tag there. That's going to be absolutely amazing. And of course, a 2 out of 3 falls final curtain match. So before we say goodbye to you, give us one more reason why we should go and get tickets for that show on the 12th of February then, Steve, because it looks like a tremendous card, and there's going to be matches on the night that we're going to find out on the night what they are. But if you're in the area, you've got to get a ticket for that, haven't you?
Absolutely. And the thing with our shows is a good reason to come to them is you just never know what's going to happen. So many things occur during our shows which surprise and shock. You're always going to get your money's worth coming to an LWF show. You're always going to get excitement, and the fact that we have the sheer volume of talent in that one main event alone, and to think that that's just one match on the night, that's the biggest reason to me. There is so much crammed into that main event, and it is because we've waited so long for the women to have this championship. You're going to get nothing but high energy, just insistence that each one of them wins that belt. And I can't think of a better main event that we've had in a long time, if ever. So that's got to be your main reason to come down and to see the first ever women's champion crowned is a big moment, particularly with how good the division is and where it's going.
Absolutely. A very, very strong lineup in that Rumble match. But before we let you go, Steve, an opportunity for you to throw out to my listeners social media links or social media handles. Where can we get to learn more about the LWF on Twitter, on Facebook? We mentioned the Academy page as well, and Instagram if you have one, or maybe a YouTube page. But the floor is yours, my friend. Where can we reach out and say hi and learn more about the LWF?
Various platforms. I can start with the Facebook page. It's Lancashire Wrestling, very easy to find. As you said, the logo is very noticeable.
Yeah.
You will see an LWF page on there, as well as an LWF fans page. We encourage fans to take when they take photographs at events to post onto that page. It's sort of the floor is theirs on that one. We obviously have an Academy page that goes with it. All these will be listed as soon as you put in LWF or Lancashire Wrestling in on Facebook. Twitter, we have 2 pages on there. We have the LWF Training Academy page, and we have an LWF page, just LWF there. It's very easy to find again.
Very easy to find. Yeah.
Extremely easy. We're tagged in with a lot of people as well. There's a lot of a lot of graphics that are shared by various talents, so you should easily find us on Twitter. Instagram, the LWF Wrestling, very simple find again on there, and the same with the Academy page. Just type in the LWF Training Academy and you'll find us on there. YouTube, LWF Television. We put exclusive interviews and bonus footage, bonus matches on there. We're trying to increase that this year. That's one of the goals for this year. And then Powered 4 TV, you'll find 4 or 5 events on there, plus obviously Mosh Mayhem, a free match on there, which is well worth seeing. So there's lots of platforms to find us. And and the best place to find us is at the show itself, absolutely, on 12th of February.
There we go. But Ste Bibby, the founder, the owner, and the commentator of the LWF, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure, John. Thank you.